All right, so for the most part, we're pretty much done with the modeling aspects or the displacement aspects of the tread work on the sole. And this will work great for rendering if we want to just add the rest of the components, such as the midsole and the upper part of the shoe, and we can go ahead and render that out and we would be good to go. However, if we wanted to do a 3D print of this model, we would be out of luck by leaving it as is. The problem is displacement mapping only works within a render engine, in this case Modo's render engine. But what we would have to do is freeze out this model into actual geometry by using one of Modo's built-in utilities. But freezing isn't the right terminology. The correct terminology is baking, because it involves reading the positional data of the micropoly displacements and generating new geometry based on their positions. And in doing so, Modo outputs an extremely dense mesh. And though it might not be ideal for rendering, it's perfect for 3D printing. But before we do this, I want to adjust a couple of the settings in the render parameters that Modo is actually going to read. And I'm going to just dial back a few settings so we don't get a crazy high polygon mesh here. The first parameter I'm going to adjust is the displacement rate, which was set to 0.2. I'm going to set that to 0.5. And then I'm going to go down to minimum edge length and set that to 100 microns. And nope, 100. There we go. And as you can see, that doesn't really look great in the render, but it'll look perfect for 3D printing. So I'm going to go ahead and shut off the preview render. And I'll go up to geometry, go down to bake geometry cache and leave the settings as they are. Click OK. Now this will take a few minutes to bake out, so I'm just going to pause the recording for now and come back as soon as it's done. Now as you can see, the baking is complete and we have a very high resolution mesh actually, and it places that new mesh in its own little folder called Baked Geometry. So your original geometry is preserved. And if we look down at the bottom, we can see there is some 14 million OpenGL polygons. Now, it would be pure suicide to try to subdivide this as a Catmull Clark or a subdivision surface, so just leave it as is. But you can easily now save this and actually export this out as an STL file or whatever you need to do your 3D printing.